One of the many things you need to teach your child is the value of unconditional love. You can develop in a child a behavior that says anything you do has to be rewarded, so that when it's not rewarded, they end up in frustration. And that's one of the things that brings people to psychological maladjustment when they discover that in the real world, there are many people you love who will not love you in return. How do you deal with it? Do you stop loving? I think it's a very, very important deliverable out of a parent's home to teach your child that you can love everyone, including people who hate you. You know, Jesus encourages us to love others as much as we love ourselves. And that is actually called the golden rule. Golden rule, because if we lived by it, the earth, the relationships will be far much better. If you really want your child to make it in life, it will be important that the child understands and start practicing unconditional love. In other words, love others as much as you love yourself. Do unto others what you would have wanted them to do to you. But Jesus went beyond that. He now went beyond the golden rule, and actually introduced the platinum rule. What's the platinum rule? Love those who hate you. Love your enemies. It's much higher. You see, the golden rule is all you need is what I would have done to you, or would have wanted you to do to me. So it's still tit for tat. But platinum love is, he is saying, no. Those who hate you, love them. Those who do bad to you, do good to them. In fact, in Romans chapter 12, he is saying, if you keep loving them, the more they behave like they don't care about you, the more you love them. Paul said it's like you are putting coals of fire on them. And to burn them up, they'll soon change, and your relationship will develop. Of course, there are several reasons why people don't support that idea. Number one, we argue they don't deserve it. They don't deserve it. I mean, surely the way he treated me, he doesn't deserve. And that deserve thing is still what I was talking about. When you teach your child that everything has to be repaid, he'll find it difficult to love and deal nicely with anybody who doesn't earn the right to be treated well, to be respected, to be honored, to be cared for. And you as a parent may end up to be one of those recipients as you grow older, and you may need their help. Once they have learned that you have to earn care, and now they are 40 years, if they are 50 years, they look back and they start hearing stories about how other children were looked after, how their parents were wonderful, how the people were taken to tours all over the world, and how you never took them anywhere. And all of a sudden they realize we got a raw deal. This old man in his 70s, 80s does not deserve our care. So that idea, one of the reasons why people don't love people who don't deserve it, or people who haven't done good, it's simply the idea, earn it. My friend, the scriptures are teaching us to love even people who don't deserve it. But that's the first thing you must help your child to see, that we are born to love. God teaches us to love. In fact, he teaches us, for God so loved the world. What is the world? It includes evil men, rebellious people, witches, all of them are part of the world. But God loved the world. And he loved it to the extent he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believes in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. So it's very important to understand this that God, the Bible does not teach us that we love those we love those who deserve to be loved. It teaches us to love everyone because we are like God, and God loves people who don't deserve it. It's not the same thing Paul is saying in Romans chapter 5 verse 8. Christ Jesus loved us while we were yet sinners. He did not wait for us to improve. When we least deserved it, he loved us. He showed us his love. He died on the cross for sinful man. In fact, the men that he was dying for are the ones killing him. I'm not suggesting it's easy. All I'm saying is that your child needs to learn that he needs that love of people, or to love people who do not actually deserve to be loved or don't deserve to be cared for. So the first problem and why people don't love is because they think you must deserve it. The second thing is it makes them feel foolish. How can I love people who don't make them live foolish? Of course, that's wrong because he has wrong values. When you deal with someone better than he deals with you, it shows you are clever, it shows you are bright, it shows you are operating at a much higher level than him. But people make you think you are foolish. How can you be taken advantage of? Or how can they how they are exploiting you? I'm not supporting the idea of making yourself a doormat. That is not what I'm talking about. But you can refuse to be a doormat and still love the people who are trying to make you a doormat. So it will be very important you teach your child that difference, that there is a place for creating boundaries. That when you are talking about unconditional love, it doesn't mean that there are no boundaries. They need to create boundaries such that somebody can't go further. If you are a girl, you can't allow anybody to just start touching you inappropriately. You need to have very, very clear boundaries that will ensure that you cannot, of necessity, be taken advantage of that way. So a woman must know there must be boundaries, and nobody. If you are going to visit the pastor, and the pastor wants to move from his seat to come to put their hands on your shoulder, you just refuse. You just say, no, pastor, stay there. I'm a woman, you are a man. There must be boundaries that we operate with. So we are not suggesting that you teach your child that they can be taken advantage of. All we are saying is they can create boundaries, but still love the people outside the boundary. Show them love. It doesn't mean when you tell somebody, no, don't touch my shoulder, it doesn't mean you don't love them. It means you even love them very much. Isn't that the message that Dobson is giving when he has his book called Tough Love? What's tough love? Tough love is loving somebody enough to want to stop him from getting into trouble. If you allow the pastor to start holding you inappropriately, what will happen is that within no time, both of you may end up being involved in sex, and the career of the pastor is destroyed. If you love him, create boundaries. That way he will not end up destroying his career. It's not a sign of love. So what you're saying is you must be loving to the other person enough to create boundaries. And that will be something that is very, very important. So really what you are saying is that is a value that is supposed to be taught at home. Loving people unconditionally. And destroying the normal cultural map which says love must be earned, respect must be earned, and therefore you feel justified to mistreat people who have not treated you well, to mistreat people who don't seem to deserve it. No. Your child must be taught that they must love people who do not deserve to be loved. Because, number one, that's what the scriptures tell us. Number two, that way they may help the people out of their predicament, out of the things that has caused them to become so bad. If you could love them out of that kind of behavior. And thirdly, remember, everybody you meet on earth is potentially your brother in the Lord, even the crook, even the thief. So by loving them, you might lead them back to Jesus. So all that is the reason why you love them. And anyway, you can never be involved in evangelism if you don't love unconditionally, because many of the people whom God is going to send you to witness to evangelize, will be the kind of people you don't even want to be associated with. So you have to learn how to love them. You know, raising a child with unconditional love, yourself is the best example. The child must know, I'm loved unconditionally. That way it will be easier for him to learn that people do not have to deserve to be loved. You know, unconditional love means that there's no fear being created by the parent in their relation, in their interactions, in the child. He feels confident. To love unconditionally simply means that the parents accept their children completely. There is no but. They just love the children, not for their performance in school, but simply because they are their children. And they have no restrictions or stipulations. That doesn't mean the parents do not create boundaries for the children. They can tell them, no, you must come home by 6 o'clock. And when you don't come home by 6 o'clock, you will not be allowed to go out the next weekend. That is love. That's what I'm calling tough love. But they need to know they are loved, even when they are serving their restriction. They still are loved. There's no spoken or unspoken message causing the child to think he has to be something other than what he is in order to be loved. When you claim to be loving him unconditionally, he doesn't have to modify to be loved. He needs to modify in order to please God, in order to obey God, but not in order to be loved by the parent. He'll be loved anyway. So, right from the time the baby is born, they must be shown they are loved, that you are happy to have them as your children, irrespective. And even at their very worst, they must know that you love them. Even when you are punishing them, they must sense the fact that you love them and care about them at the same time. And that will be a very, very important thing. But sometimes children can tell that really we are not loving them. We are pretending to love them. So we are kind of feigning unconditional love. Maybe because we have had too many times a slip of the tongue and said things that are hurting. So the child knows that you really, what you say during your moment of anger is the real you. And so it will be, to love people unconditionally, it will mean you also have to have very high level of emotional intelligence, ability to manage your emotions. And you as a parent, it's not going to be easy, but you need to control your emotions. You know how to communicate through love. You must give them time, because that's one of the things that will show you love them. If you are not available to your children, it will be difficult to communicate to them unconditional love. Parenting is a time game. There's no way you can parent and you're not available. By sending school fees, money, no. Buying clothes, no. Paying the house girl, all those are important, but their real love is availability to that child. So that as you collide, they can see, even during a collision, there is a punishment in love. Maybe the parents are not willing to love that way, but then it is going to damage your children. Or is it that you are not able to love that way? Or is it that you don't like your child? How do you love somebody you don't like? It will be important to understand for a normal, proper growth of the person, in order to be the godly child. Malachi chapter 2 tells parents to produce a godly child, it will be important that you show them this love that is totally unconditional, by giving them time, by listening to them with their nonsense, and talking with a child in the language of the people, and getting to know the child, their weaknesses, their strength. I'm currently a grandfather, and I'm starting to learn that again. How the child talks at a different level from an adult, and you have to learn how to bring yourself to the level of the child so the child can feel listened to, cared for, loved, especially the younger ones. As you grow older, you must recognize them. It's much easier now with adult children to talk at the same level. But you must show that love, unconditional love, right from the beginning, not just when they become adult. That will be something that will be important to deal with. But we're emphasizing this issue, and maybe you're asking yourself, why is spending time and loving people unconditionally so important, especially your own children? Psychologists tell us that children who receive unconditional love right from their parenting have better stress resilience. Of course, stress will come to everyone, but people with resilience, ability to handle stressors of all types, which have become bigger and bigger as the world is getting more and more complex. But it is the people who have grown in unconditional love that are able to have resilience against these stressors. So in the end, you are giving them ability to have better health, because when they are able to have this unconditional love, it also helps them to fight diseases, to have better immunity, and all that allows them to live a better, healthy life. All because of they grew up in unconditional love. They are not trying to deserve anything. They live their life and enjoy it. But of course, the thing that really works best is self-esteem. If you keep telling people how they don't deserve your love, you are killing their self-esteem. They don't accept themselves. In other words, since my parent doesn't accept me, maybe I'm not worth accepting. So they do not accept themselves. And because they do not accept themselves, they are always second-guessing in anything. They try something, I'll fail. If I fail, people will be unhappy with me. If they're unhappy with me, how do I live? So they can't try anything. So lack of self-esteem will also affect their productivity, will affect their ability to reach their potential, all because they grew up wanting to work to deserve anything. I don't know how true this is, but we are told that children who grew up in that unconditional love have better brain development. Not that they will become brighter, because their brain developed better because of how you are able to look after them and take care of them unconditionally. I think for all this, you can therefore see it is something critical in every family. Critical for health, emotional, and physical growth. So whether you want your child to grow psychologically well, or physically well, or mentally well, it will be important that you ask God for help to help you to love your children. That unconditional. Of course, I have kept saying that you cannot show this unconditional love to your children if they can see you don't love their parent. So the best way of loving your children, I've kept saying, is to love their mother, is to love their father. If you criticize their father and they have no other, who will never even get another. Any other person is Baba Mkate, is a foster father. They start thinking, what could my father have done to deserve this? Maybe my mother doesn't really love me. She's just pretending. if she cannot love my father? How? So it will be important to understand that that's all a package. But what you are saying, if you really want to produce healthy, useful people into society, who are healthy emotionally, who are healthy physically, who are healthy psychologically, who are healthy mentally, it will be important that you help them to grow in this, where they know to be loved does not require that you deserve it. Just be yourself. People accept you as you are and love you as you are. Whether you are number one in class or number last, they will encourage you to work hard, but the marks you get are not the one that determine whether your parents love you or they don't love you. It will be an important thing for you to deal with. So, love your parents. Why should you love them? Because of who they are. God gave you as they are. Some are clever, some are not clever, some are fat, some are thin, some are rude, some are good. But God gave you these children. It will be important that you love them just as they are. Some are crippled, some are physically okay. Clearly, you must accept them as they are, therefore love them as they are. That is no matter what they do or don't do. In contrast, conditional parenting gives children the message that they must earn their parents' love. And that is what you don't want them to get in society. We have been saying, because if they start thinking that love must be deserved, that's the way they will relate with the people. And they end up to be people with the bad interpersonal relationships with others. Because they're always asking, hey, you haven't done this. They do not show any respect for people who do not deserve it according to them. Because you taught them that everything must be deserved. Children feel they need to fulfill their parents' expectations if they know the only way of getting love is to fulfill those expectations. But unfortunately, if that's what you teach them, that your affection and your approval must be earned, my friend, you are developing children. And I have to keep correcting myself. It doesn't mean you don't create boundaries. It doesn't mean you don't punish your child. It doesn't mean that you are not unhappy with them not working hard and you need to tell them so. But they must sense that beyond all that, this person admires me, likes me, and is happy to have me as a child. That's really what we are saying will be important for all of us. So there is a very good reason why you must love them, for what they will become in life, but also because of society. You are building a better society. And then thirdly, because God's love is agape love, and if you are to love like God, you must have agape. And what is agape love? Love that does not request or demand reciprocation. Yeah, I love you even if you don't love me back. That's agape. Only God can do it effectively. So you need to cry to Him to give you that love for your children, so your children also grow knowing that God can give you the ability to love people who haven't earned the love. They don't deserve it at all. If you treated them badly, that would even be more deserving for them. So, maybe we can quote a UCLA study done in 2013 that found that unconditional love and affection from a parent can make children emotionally happier and less anxious. So not just later in life, you have better company in your own home, according to this research. This happens because their brain actually changes as a result of the affection. On the other hand, the negative impact of childhood abuse and lack of affection impact children both mentally and physically for life. So when you choose not to have conditional love, you choose something that will give problems to your child at a later life. You know, we have a very bad example of unconditional love with Isaac and Rebecca in the Bible. In Genesis chapter 25, verse 28, we read, Isaac, who had a taste for wild game, loved Esau, but Rebecca loved Jacob. There's reasons why Isaac loved Esau, because he was somebody in the field, he hunted, brought things. Whereas there's also a reason why Rebecca loved Jacob. He was more homely, more farming, more whatever, more available, whatever. But they are children. They're even twins. There's hardly a firstborn and a secondborn, although Esau is called the firstborn. How would you treat them? One you love, the other one you don't love. Yet many homes are like that. Of course, you know what in the end they produced. They produced fear of each other. You only need to see Jacob trying to come back to the land of promise from his uncle Laban's place. And he is in fear. He is crying. He is seeking God. And why is he doing all that? To meet his own brother. Now, my friend, it will be very, very important that you understand the damage you do to your children when you love one and hate the other. It is a terrible, terrible thing. Unconditional love means you love all your children, even if some are not so lovable. Because your love does not depend on what they do. Simply, they are your children. You love them as your children. And I think that will be something that will be very, very important for us to handle. So, love unconditionally your children so that you bequeath them with a value that is important to love people unconditionally. That is important to respect people unconditionally. And the process, the product at the end is that God will be honored and will have easier time with the people. I think it's a very, very, very important to understand when you ask people to deserve. Sometimes they think they deserve, but you still don't love them, and they get a lot of frustration, and you end up becoming enemies. But when you love people, some of them who don't deserve, it means you have no enemy on earth. You are at peace with everybody. Now, the thing that's what the thing that you ask yourself, whether you have that unconditional love. If you do, are you showing it in your family, both your spouse and your children? When you do, you should expect that God will be happy with you, but more importantly also, that God is going to use you to help your children to become the better people in the long term, in the community. And I think that's really the important. So we've been going through asking ourselves, what parenting all requires. And I think this may be the hardest. Parenting requires unconditional love. That all their years, they will never think that you have to do something to be loved. That you will be loved, whether they do good or don't do good. Then when you communicate that in the life of a child, it makes them grow healthy and psychologically, emotionally. But in addition to that, makes them better members of society and makes them better people as leaders or even as followers in society, because they know how to deal with the people comfortably and well. Is that what you went through when you are growing up yourself? It doesn't matter. Even if you didn't, it can stop with you. The loving by deserving can stop with you. And then you start a new generation where people know their families accept them just because they are part of the family. not because they deserve it or have to earn it.